Right, we're live. All right, everyone, welcome to House Government Operations and Military Affairs. We are opening up committee work this week on May 12th, Tuesday, just after 1 p.m. So we're continuing work on S-278, the act relating to cannabis. And what we are going to do today is it's a little retro. It was a practice earlier in the legislative tenure of some of us of doing a collaborative section by section markup. So we're going to go through this essentially line by line with council, and we're going to make collaborative decisions on what the changes look like. I do recall back in the day, it's a very immersive and, in my opinion, informative practice, because you get everybody's eyes on the sections in a pretty granular and conversational way. So as we do this, we're still going to maintain the usual table decorum. If someone has input, a suggestion, we're going to call on hands, things of that nature. But it is going to be a little bit more of a freewheeling conversation, shall we say. So I'm actually excited to do this. Haven't done this in a while. So yeah, we're dusting off the playbook here a little bit. So any questions from anyone before we get rolling? Yeah, like almost here. Yes, right.
As far as the process goes, are you going to have us look at one section at a time, or are we just sort of going through it all individually?
Section by section is the goal.
That's
yeah, to really focus section by section as we go.
Got them section by section input.
No, and I know that there's been one of the reasons I wanted to do this is I know that there's been a lot of interest from an array of licensees, stakeholders, the public.
So
And everybody has been hearing things from constituents and or people they know in the sector. So I wanted to be respectful of those opinions of members and people that they're speaking on behalf of. So yes. Anything else? No. All right. So glad you could join us for this one.
Good afternoon. For the record, Tucker Anderson, Legislative Counsel. You should have in front of you the as passed by Senate version of S-278. And based on the request of the committee and the chair, I will go section by section, call out what's happening in each of the sections as we go through, and await your instruction on how to proceed. If that sounds good and we are all buckled in, we'll start in section 1 under the reader assistance heading for the packaging limit. This amends 7 VSA section 881 to increase the per package limit from 100 milligrams to 200 milligrams. And something I failed to call out during the initial walkthrough is this amends rulemaking authority to require this change in the rules. So there will be a lag, for example, between passage and when this takes effect in the marketplace, because this is incorporated into the CCB rules. So I am assuming that the rules will have to be updated as well.
Okay. Thoughts on that component?
just real quick.
Yes, Rep. Morgan.
So 100 to 200, that's in a single package. Okay, no, never mind. I'm sorry. I'm more focused on 2 is where we're talking about going to 1 to 2 ounces. But
Yeah.
is there any corollary there?
They kind of swim in the same direction because you are doubling the possession amounts and then the purchase limit. So, and I do want to point out that this first section with the 100 milligrams to 200 milligrams leaves the 5 milligram per unit in place.
So it leaves the 5 versus going to 10.
In its current form, yes.
Okay.
So this is sort of the conversation that we had in the previous biennium where you can buy a 12 pack. How come you can't buy a 24 rack?
So it's 5. What's the quantity? MGs, milligrams as well. Okay. 5 milligrams serving size, we could call it.
Yes.
Okay. So it's yeah. Okay. Left intact. Okay.
So yeah, so essentially per package, it would go from 20 pieces to 40 pieces. Mathing that math correctly.
But they're up, but they stay at 5.
Correct. I had Waters Evans, then it looked like coffin.
I could buy if I wanted 2 packages of 100 milligram,
Mhm,
or I could buy 4 if I wanted.
mhm.
Could I buy 6?
I believe so.
Okay.
That
So it's just putting it all in the same thing, but it's not increased. I know there's another part that increases the amount you could buy, but this is just putting it all in one thing into one package. And the packaging requirements would stay the same, right?
Yes, we are not addressing packaging standards.
So it's just like all the same, except for it's just like twice what's in it.
Yes.
That's in a package.
So instead of a
Yeah.
12-pack, you buy the 24-pack.
Mhm. Repcon.
Okay, that was what I was looking towards too, that it'll just be reduced packaging, but able to buy the quantities they would have bought anyway in multiple packages.
Yes, as an application, yes.
And nothing prevents them from still having smaller packages for people that don't want that much.
Right. It would be a business decision.
Yeah, 12 inches.
Right.
One, I have a question on the equivalencies with the beer comparisons. I'm not sure that's this quite equivalent. And then my other question is, as far as packaging requirements, just wanted to get a refresher on, are they childproof? Is all the products, are they all in childproof containers? Because my understanding was the issue that the health department had with the bigger sizes was that the dosage makes the poison, and so it's the amount that someone could access at a time, like a child or something. And that's what causes the worst side effects of it.
So your question is about the childproof packaging itself.
Mhm.
This doesn't impact any of that, so those standards all apply.
Do they all apply, just as a reminder? Like I just could use a reminder, yeah, to all products.
Much, right?
Yes, like as far as I recall within the statutes, and it looks like council is typing to source. But I also could look over to the CCB real quick.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing nods.
For the record, yes, any, except for flour, which is child resistant packaging, everything else is child proof.
Prepped often.
What is the difference between those two?
Child proof packaging actually is built through standards. The child resistant is, it's not quite as child proof, I guess, is the easiest way to describe it. And the reason for that is that the flour is not, a child who ingests flour is not necessarily likely to feel the euphoric effects of cannabis because it has to be decarboxylated before that. So I think the concern that the representative has is more with the prepackaged edibles. And that was the concern of the health department. The same reaction doesn't happen with solid. That makes sense.
I agree with you. Yes.
And the terms that are used in statute for those out there trying to find some of this are child resistant for cannabis products and child deterrent for cannabis.
All right, any other questions on this section? All right, so I guess I'm gonna propose that we maintain the Senate proposal at 200 milligrams. No objections. All right,
No, that seems fine.
section 2. We're almost through the first page.
No objection means that we changing it, correct? It doesn't
Yeah.
mean that we concur with it.
Yeah, we're doing a section by section.
Yeah. Let me just.
Unless you want to be done with the whole bill now. Just kidding.
I would love to.
Nice.
All right, cool. Section 2.
Take a look at section 2 along with sections 3 and 4, all under the reader assistance heading for the transaction limit. First, section 2, amend 7 VSA section 907 to increase the single transaction limit from 1 ounce to 2 ounces. In section 3, the same increase happens for purposes of possession. Similarly, section 4 has the same increases, and as we discussed before, there's the doubling of the possession limit in those sections 3 and 4 both for the ounces of cannabis, but also for the grams of hashish. So you have the equivalent increase for both.
And this is something that I think has also been done in some of the other neighboring states where the possession limit went up. And that's also sort of like, you're talking about purchase limits that came up over the fall and things of that nature. One of the ways of helping guide that process within purchase limits, because of the product array getting more expansive, especially on things that are like beverages, edibles, that this seemed like a wise policy choice to help guide that decision making process. Grab back up.
So I guess this is a time for me to say this, since they all kind of deal with expansion of what an individual would be able to purchase at one time. I'm not in favor of increased limits, although I really understand why the retailers might need that, particularly along the border with other states, that to remain competitive. I'm just not in favor of more of the product getting into individuals' hands.
Prep is null, then water's up.
I'm trying to like visualize what 2 ounces of, or 10 grams is in like a bulk. Like, is it like, I mean, it's like when you take a 5-pound bag of sugar is certainly different size than a 5-pound bag of flour.
Oh, yes.
So like, what does 2 ounces equivalent to? Like, is it like this much? Is it
I would say 2 standard issue Ziploc sandwich bags.
2 Ziploc sandwich bags? So like 1 ounce would be 1 sandwich bag?
Ish. I mean, it really varies based on like flour itself, whether or not it's compressed. There's a bunch of different variables, but I would say in this, the easiest sort of visualization would be like 2 sandwich bags.
So then taking that further, because I don't know any of this, how many joints do you get out of 2 ounces? Depending on how thick you roll.
Yeah,
them.
that's how big you roll.
One, Sandy.
Did we go to prom together?
Sorry. Probably.
Rat Waters Evans? There
Sorry.
you go.
I didn't mean to go off script there for a second, just making me laugh. Okay, so here are my questions. And I know the answers to some of them, but just kind of posing this one, okay, which is I can go to a store and buy an ounce, and then I can go to a store that's like quarter mile away and buy an ounce, correct? And then I could go to like a third store and buy another ounce.
Yes.
No one's like checking how much I'm buying as I traverse the streets of Burlington buying ounces.
Well, it is, it's like they are logging the sales, but this is like the possession limit for like when you're outside of the store, like if you have like.
It's right.
Yeah.
So maybe let's stop it too, because that's what we're allowing. I could buy one place and then I could buy, I don't want to break the law. And then I could buy another one, another place, and that's fine right now, right? In theory,
Yes.
if we do this. So my question would be, why wouldn't I just be able to buy them both in the same place?
Well, there's like purchase limits to possession limits. And so it's like, that's kind of where,
Well, right, we're
Yeah, yeah.
changing it. So the purchase limit is 2 ounces
correct,
and the possession limit is 2 ounces.
correct, is uniform.
But right now, in theory, I could buy an ounce, bring it home, and then go out and buy another ounce and bring it home, right? And then, okay.
Yes.
I feel like when we are talking about limiting it, it seems like limiting it just for the sake of saying that we have limits on it is frustrating for me, because the whole goal of it being legal in the first place and having limits is so that we can regulate it. But if we're making these somewhat arbitrary, I mean, I said somewhat, arbitrary rules about like how much you can have, it just seems like if we allow things within reason, then we have a better opportunity to regulate. I guess that's my way of saying I think that switching to 2 is fine if it's already possible to do that anyway. Like, all we're changing is making legal what people can in theory do anyway,
In one shot.
in one shot. Yes,
Needs to do it.
because also you could go every day, right, and buy an ounce and then consume that ounce, and then the next day go get more, because then you're not in violation of how much you're allowed to possess. Unhealthy, in my opinion, by the way, but you could. Okay,
Could buy 2 ounces every day,
In-
as long as you didn't possess more than 2 at one time.
Were there any other, yes, Rep, I go.
So the first part of this bill, the first several pages of this bill just really makes it easier for a consumer to purchase and possess, in my opinion. So anything we're doing in this first section of the first several sections of the bill is to make it easier to sell, possess, and consume the product. And if it's not a product that we're comfortable with having been legalized, then I think that's the issue. If you're comfortable having it legalized, then yeah, why not make it easier for people to partake? So I think that might be the answer to your question.
No, I think like it's already legal. The ability to partake already exists. Now the conversation is just about the like,
How to make it
back to
easier.
the beer examples or liquor examples, like can you just buy a fifth or can you buy a handle? Are you allowed to possess 1/5 at a time? Refuge.
I think my concern with this is that you can put a lot of more intoxication into a small, very easy to carry container, whereas it's very hard to carry a 12-pack versus a 6-pack or a keg. And it's also a lot easier potentially to consume. So as far as regulation goes, which is trying to limit the damage of something that could hurt somebody so that it's maintains a, something that people like to do because they enjoy it to a limited degree. I think that this does have potential to increase that harm to people, adults and kids. And so I think we should be cautious around. And maybe, I don't think that the alcohol is a perfect equivalency as far as potency goes. And I also think that regulation is the answer to prohibition, and it has to be done kind of begrudgingly, so. I'm not excited about this section. Just in general.
Understood.
I'm not excited about Thompson. I'm not excited about expanding or enlarging the quantity. I know these people. I've worked with them and I know how they get around the wall. So to increase the danger of THC, that's what we're talking about, in any product that can be ingested by a human being is a health issue. We have gone through it with tobacco. We have people who have smoked. We have had volumes of information made available to us through research in medicine to know that it will affect the lungs, that it will affect other organs of the body. There's no reason to believe that this is going to be less intrusive in terms of what it does. I happened to talk to an individual yesterday. This young fellow was about 27 years old. He works for a large company here in Vermont, and I had some service done for an irrigation system at my home. And I happened to ask him when we were doing all of this about his position on marijuana. And he said to me, I don't have a position on marijuana. I don't use it. I said, why not? I said, have you not enjoyed at least maybe toking up once or twice? And he said, no. He said, my job's too important to me. I need to be paying attention. I need to be observing the changes that are happening while bringing an irrigation system up so that there isn't an accident in the system that's more costly for lack of my being able to do so. He said, so I don't use anything. He said, I don't drink alcohol as a practical matter. He said, I will have a beer every once in a while. My father. So what about your friends? He said, the people that I had in friendship when I was in my early 20s, some number of them have passed by me and they use marijuana. And I would describe them as being almost like zombies and no longer able to maintain a friendship with me, or I will be responsible for myself being willing to maintain a friendship with someone who will endanger themselves. So I share the story with you. It was impromptu, but more importantly, I've worked with people who are committed to using this substance, and life does not go well for them.
Yeah, Rep. Waters Evans and then Pistol. No, thank you, Chief.
Thank you. I mean, with all due respect, I think Rep. Scully's comment about knowing people and how they get around the law, I think is a gross misgeneralization of lumping in or mischaracterization, I mean, of putting, people, there are many people who use it for medical reasons, there are people who use it recreationally. There are definitely some people who probably struggle with usage. I don't feel comfortable, first of all, with putting everybody in this category of being, a zombie or someone who's breaking the law, because they're not breaking the law. If people who are operating these these legal businesses, they're regulated. There are few instances of people doing that. They're really, the state's keeping track of it. So just,
I certainly accept your point of view.
yeah.
And I know that as I tell you the story.
Yes, of course. I understand that your perspective is from a time before it was legal.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so what we're talking about right now, I think, is how to navigate within a system that's already legal.
Yeah.
And the thing that is, when we talk about comparisons to alcohol, it definitely is not the same, but there are similarities. And I actually think vodka looks like water, and they are not in childproof bottles. And if you don't care for your bottle of vodka in your home, someone who's not supposed to have it, a child could easily get it, take the top off and drink it and definitely get sick and have to go to the hospital. So I feel like, and we have no limits on that. I could fill my shopping cart with it and put it all in my car and go home. Yeah, and so I feel like it's not the same, but I feel like when we consider these laws and as we are moving forward and comparing to other states, because I think there are other states who have done this recently, have increased the amount that you're allowed to have. I think it's an industry and it's, something that's evolving because it's new. And if we want to help the folks in this state who we have allowed, who we have said, please do this, you're allowed to do this now, this is a legal business. I think we owe them the opportunity to keep up with people in other states that are nearby who, it's a competition to be able to drive over to New York or to drive to Massachusetts because, we are really close to those states and it's very easy to get to them. So, regardless of what our feelings are about, the cannabis itself, it's legal. And so I think we have to do the best we can by the people we've given this opportunity to.
Well, and I think like part of that is also the conversation, whether or not to legalize is over. It's how do we like support and maintain these business structure? And so that's, yeah, and that's something that conversationally always comes back up with this, where
Yeah,
it is that conversation took years and it's established now. And now we're just like, how do we make this industry that exists operate in a safe, functional, and profitable way for both the license holders, and the state coffers? So, Rep. Pisnall, then I got Rep. Cobb.
So we're talking about section 3 and section 4, correct?
Sections 2, 3, and 4.
Okay, so I'm reading section 2A, which is part of section 3. And it says 2 ounces of cannabis or 10 grams or more of hashish, or more than 3 mature cannabis plants or 6 immature cannabis. And then you go to section 4 and it says 2 ounces, 10 grams, 2 mature cannabis plants or fewer, or 4 immature cannabis plants or fewer. So I'm confused as to why one section says 4 and one section says 6. 3 and 6 and 2 and 4.
2 different sections of Title 18 applicable to different circumstances. And if you give me a couple minutes, I can circle back to your question and give
Okay.
you some more context.
No problem.
Rep. Gotham.
Okay. First, I'll make it clear, I don't care for marijuana usage at all. I'm a recovering addict, been clean since July of 1990, July 22nd, 1990, but it's in the law. Nothing in this that I've been reading in these sections increases the potency level. It increases the amount you can transport to your possess and legally transport to your home. I know, to me, in my opinion, this is bad for your health. All right, I understand that, but I'm also a smoker. And a pack of cigarettes is just as bad for me as 10 individual wrapped packs of cigarettes having in my car as a carton. It's smoking. And only having a carton of cigarettes doesn't make me smoke the entire carton faster. I'm going to smoke the same rates I always do. But for cannabis, for the possession of, for the purchasing, and if we're upping the limit to purchase and then transport home legally, that doesn't mean you can go to the next store and purchase 2 more, because then you're in possession of 4 ounces then. The ability to go store to store unchecked has nothing to do with whether you're willing to break the law or not. So I think, although I'm not in favor of most anything, I mean, if we're going to adopt any of this, at least, upping the limit for purchase and possession is the least of the evils in this bill.
Thank you, Representative. Any other comment on this section? Rep. Waters Evans? I was looking at Rep. Morgan because he grabbed some paper and started shuffling around. I wasn't sure if he's gonna throw a hand up, but
No, I'm just doing cross check.
I just wanted somebody to remind me what, I can Google it. It just, if you knew off the top of your head, what the limits are in our surrounding states or nearby states that have it legalized.
That's in New York or.
Mr. Cannabis Control Board,
James Pepper, Cannabis Control Board. 2 ounces in Massachusetts, I think it's 3 or more, it's certainly more in New York. I think it's 2 in Maine. I did provide a chart, which I'm happy to just send to Nick again, which was a comparison.
Oh, I can find it.
Cool.
Thank you.
Council.
I was gonna say the chart is in fact posted on your committee webpage already, and Nick can probably pull it up and repost it for today.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, so this is like proposing to like equalize at the lower level,
Yeah,
apparently.
seems okay to me. I would say with the understanding that I understand that people have reservations about the concept in general. And that I see how that can really inform all other decision making around it. That makes perfect sense to me.
So. All right, so.
Sorry,
Please.
make sure that I circle back to Representative Pinsonalt's question. The 2 sections deal first in 4230 with possession and cultivation generally. And the limits that are put in place there. And then in 4238, it looks strictly at possession for individuals who are over 21. And that is the section that is looking at both possession and consumption within Vermont's now regulated market. From a drafting perspective, as an attorney new to this portfolio, perhaps there are some ways that those 2 sections could be better harmonized in the future and be a little less confusing.
Thank you.
Okay, so. Any other questions or discussion on these 2, 3, 4 sections? As they are sort of like operation uniform. With each other. I mean, I think it's a logical step, given the landscape of the industry in surrounding states, so I'm gonna propose that we. Leave the language as proposed as it's.
Sections 1, 2, 3,
So
4.
be 2, 3, 4, we already did section 1.
I agree with you, Chair Byron.
All right. Guess that gets us on to 5.
Am I the only one?
Do we need to,
You want funds or no funds or?
uh,
Well, all right, then, section 3, 4, 5, sorry, 2, 3, 4. Favorable thumbs? It's a favorable thumbs. 2, 3, 4, 5.
That's probably his thumb up for a bit.
Sorry,
Okay, cool.
sorry.
So that is what is that? Counting
7.
to 7, 2, 2
Mhm.
equals 11. Look at that. Not bad for a policy committee. Had nothing to know. All right. On to event permits, section 5, council.
That is correct. The next few sections will deal with the pilot programs for some new permits. First in section 5 is the event permit. You may recall this will be a 2-year pilot. The events are not specified, fairly broad discretionary authority given to the CCB to adopt procedures here, limited to 20 during each year of the pilot program, split 10 and 10 between public events and private events.
Rep, yeah.
okay, so last year we dealt with this as a pilot program and it was 3 events, total 5 events.
5, I
total,
believe.
pardon me.
We did
It started out being 3, then
Yeah.
it became 5. At the very 11th hour, by amendment, that section of the bill was pulled, so it did not pass. And I'm just really surprised that after that happening a year ago, now we're up to 10 and 10 for permits. So clearly I'm not happy about that. And I don't think at this point, any number of permits for events would make me happy. So seeing as I have to be in House Appropriations in a short while, I'll just record my thumbs down now.
Okay, so that is a negative vice chair thumb on 5. Was that a hand, Rep. Nugent?
I was thinking.
Oh, okay, I thought I saw a hand go up out of my.
Oh, here it is, 10. I was looking for where it's 10.
Yes, and it is an up to, there's a lot of discretion built into this for the CCB. So it is not a requirement that they issue this many permits. It is a pilot program. It is something that the industry is looking to do in and around sort of the hospitality dynamic and events dynamics as well. So I just wanted to put that in the footer of us before I started calling hands, Rep Coffin.
All right, I'm just gonna get it out right now. I have already voiced my concerns about the event permits. That I don't agree with them. I don't think there's enough thought put into it. I think there's too many of them. And wasn't thrilled about it last year, and now where we've got instead of 3, we've got 20 options in there.
Went from 5 to 20. Yeah,
5 to 20, so 4 times as many.
that is the proposal.
Yeah, I can't see it now. I'm just a no on that part.
A no, just like across the board, or?
No on the events.
Okay, so I was gonna just ask the question of like trimming down the number of events.
Can we compromise? Split the difference?
Discussion. Okay, hands though, we're gonna go Pistol, we're gonna go Boyden,
Do we know why they raised it from 3 or 5 to 10 and 10?
just the Senate proposal. I wasn't there for the witness testimony.
Who's on that committee? No, I mean, really, who?
Chittenden, Weeks, Clarkson,
Brock,
Brock, Aisha, and it did pass 5-0.
Curious as to why they went that way. I could see going 5 and 5. But I'm not in favor of 10 and 10.
Okay, so then I had Chesnall, and then I had a hand from Nugent and Boyden. Who would like to go first? I lost track.
Have we heard, or maybe somebody has knowledge of surrounding states and their allowance of cannabis events?
It is in the chart.
Oh, thank you, sorry.
Your choice.
So yes, Rep. Nugent.
I would love to see some more evaluation factors built in for events. That worked with municipalities, especially regarding anything that happens as a result. And uniform data collection. That makes sense. I don't know.
No, I know what you're at, like how they, like for like roadside offenses, like the things we were talking about at one point offline.
Yeah, any incidents that arise, just so that, I mean, it is a pilot program, from what I understand, correct? So that we have a good baseline data to compare and see what impact, if any, it has on
Canvas fault.
communities.
The data collection standpoint, I mean, that's one of the things where I think that warehousing that and like collecting it is the question of like sort of, would they feed the information to, would like Department of Health do that? Are they willing to do that? Do they have capacity to do that? It's all like kind of an open question. And I don't know if we have an answer to that as to like propose that. But because I don't know if they've been able to.
Do you want me to try to find
If
it
you want to
out?
find out, yeah, please go ahead. And then I had Rep. Hanger.
yeah, no. I'm good, I think it's been said.
Okay. Rep. Morgan, did you have a thought on this?
I was only mentioning earlier, perhaps a compromise of, splitting the difference just to try to bring some consensus on. It's just a concept, but just throwing it out there. Some of the input I got from growers, they said, I've seen how hosting and attending events benefit local breweries. Want to see the industry move in that direction. but I don't know that they're hard over on numbers. I mean, they did talk about 10 being a fairly conservative number, but not sure if they're hell bent on that number either. So just a couple of pieces of food for thought.
Rep. Waters Evans?
I was just wondering if anyone who feels like 10 is too many. It's 20 though. Right?
Well, it's 20 total, it's 10 and 10.
and-
10 and 10, yeah.
Private, 10
And-
more broadly public.
And 10 public. Is there like an acceptable number that would feel better? If it's either zero, it doesn't matter how many it is.
It seemed like Rep. Morgan was more amenable at a 5 and 5.
Yeah, just thinking as a pilot program, you
Yeah.
have to give it enough of a shot so that if.
Yeah, that's what I'm
one
saying.
time might not be
Not to
enough.
be way over here, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think, and I don't, you know, my guys might call me and go, no, but I also think they understand some level of compromise on it too. I believe I can safely say that one. They'll call me and tell me otherwise. They don't.
You know, and I'm sure if you went into the Wayback Machine, like when Brewers Festival was starting up, the same conversation occurred within and around the DLL landscape, right? Like, so. And, you know, it's good, this structure had similar security plans, guardrails, ID checking protocols.
Yeah, so I guess, yeah, I think I'm there on 5. And they'll tell me if they feel differently. That's okay.
So I guess that's the first question, is the committee amenable to scaling to 5 and 5?
I also have a question.
Yes, please.
Licensed cannabis establishment, is that only honing in on retail or any licensee? Cultivator?
The latter. It's any, yes.
I feel like I would also be more comfortable if it were only retailers.
Okay.
Um,
No, they have that conversation. You go ahead and
yeah, just.
give us your
they're-
as to why.
They're more in touch with customers, constantly talking and seeing with folks. They're also required to educate customers, so they have staff. Yeah, I don't know, I think just a lot of what the bill is asking for folks to do around security and public safety and public health dives with our retail industry. If we're gonna start a pilot, maybe start small within one section of the industry and then see what it looks like to go even larger.
And so like, just for clarity on your perspective, it's like you're saying because the retailers are the ones who are currently doing the like, I guess to use a term of art, the hand to hands currently, that they're more practiced in ID checking or noticing if somebody is off or intoxicated, things of that nature. But I mean, very similar to like bartender training, right? And or server training in a alcohol license landscape.
Yeah, and if we want to compare it to alcohol as well, yeah, similar to a bartender versus somebody who is out back in the warehouse brewing the beer. It's just different. So.
No, I understand what you're saying. Rep. Pango?
I actually like those suggestions of cutting down the number of permits and restricting it to retail licensees only. But my question is on page 5, line 14, Tucker. It's 13, cannabis retailer that holds an event permit shall not conduct sales at the licensed retail location and the permitted event. Oh, okay, this
Yeah.
is the.
You're in my head. I wanted to talk about that
I
line.
remember what
Yep.
this is, but why put a restriction only on them, but allow. I think this is to Rep. Boyden's point, but then allow cultivators and anybody else to be selling. No, I guess they can't sell at their place of business, so I do
Yeah,
understand that. Yeah, never mind that, but I do like Rep. Boyden's 2 suggestions, although I still will be a thumbs down on the events. But it would make
All
it.
right. I got a council that wants to talk. I got a Representative Morgan, then a Representative Coffin.
Representative Pango's all set. I don't have to provide any context, but happy to just say that this deals with overlapping service by the same licensee at the same location. It is something that is regulated in the alcoholic beverages space as well. And the alcoholic beverages bill coming over from the Senate actually has an amendment to deal with this when you have a retail licensee who also holds a catering permit. Right now, Title VII prohibits that licensee from using the same licensed property for both the retail license and the catering permit. So this restriction mirrors existing regulation in the alcoholic beverages space. Deals again with overlapping license types in the same location, except where you have contiguous property outside of the licensed retail establishment. It also deals with the a licensee using two licenses to operate the same sort of business to customer transactions in two different locations at the same time.
So did I have a Morgan first or a Coffin first? I can't remember.
So VL first, I'm still pondering.
Doesn't matter, that just answered the question I was about to ask.
Good.
So how would you restate what?
How would I restate this?
Yeah,
So if a licensed seller at a store is doing an event
right, outside.
outside of the store,
Yep.
outside the confines of their store, the way when it's mirroring the alcohol, the way the alcohol provisions are,
Mhm.
you're using the same permit, the same license to sell in two locations at the same time, where you would, if you had two liquor stores, you would need those two stores would need to be
Those
licensed,
two
correct?
locations.
Could you use the same license?
It might not be best to get into the alcohol.
Yeah, okay.
Licensing scheme too deeply because.
Because now we're going to
Yeah.
threes without a site endorsement.
Fourth class licenses.
Yeah, it's a strong-ish.
Yeah. It's using the same license in two locations at the same time.
So it's not trying to expand scope, is that a good way to say it, or how?
Ask the question again.
Is it expanding scope of business? Is that what we're talking about? I'm not using the right terminology.
I mean, it's allowing for them to sell to a consumer at a different location, different
Right.
venue, different landscape, right? Like, so it's the same sort of like functional operation. You're just giving a one-time.
A one-off, well, 5 times, 10 times, whatever we end up.
Yeah, but we'll just say permit over permit, right? Like regardless of then over the 5 to the 10, it's allowing them to go and operate in a retail capacity at an offsite location. Yes.
But the way this is written right now says they cannot do
Both at the
both
same time.
simultaneously.
So they would have
So
to.
you gotta close your storefront if you're at an event,
Yeah. And that's,
correct?
Unless it is on property that is contiguous with the
You put
retail
a tent
space.
outside your store,
Parking lot.
yeah.
Mhm.
Um, So, but that loosely gives some context of it's,
yes,
again, I know we're saying it's apples and oranges a bit with alcohol, but sort of, kind of.
totally. I mean, there are similarities, but they're
Yes.
not identical.
For purposes of the policy choices that the committee is making or could be making within this permit section, I wanted to flag how this is structured and how it marries with the number of licenses to be issued, whatever you determine that number to be. The 10 and 10 is a policy choice divided between two different possible types of events that can be pulled. The event permit broadly within this program covers a whole host of different types of event permits that you're familiar with in alcoholic beverages. Conceptually, this allows the CCB to issue multiple different types of events permits, potentially to see what works. And there's a report that's due as an intermediate step. Also within this is a requirement. The CCB is directed as part of the procedures that will govern this permit program to ensure that permits are issued to multiple different license types. Something that would have to be corrected if you restrict it down to the retail establishments exclusively.
And then the first part of that. Well, just ahead of that, an event not issued for location at which alcohol. Is also, so in other words, we couldn't be, this would prohibit blending the Brewfest on the Burlington waterfront being.
Correct.
Done at the same time as one of these events,
They could not be, yeah, you cannot provide alcohol and cannabis.
the same event. No commingling.
Correct, I was gonna say the same thing,
Oh,
going back
no.
into that old bucket.
No.
Jargonese.
Just to clarify that, the same retailer can't be doing it commingling, or
Can't
you
do it at all.
can't have,
Can't do it at
you
all.
can't have a beer tent at one end of the event and have cannabis at the other end.
No, correct, not at the
So it's
same,
all alcohol or beer or all cannabis.
correct.
No commingling.
Oh, Representative Dunn. So. All right, so. Just to sort of circle back on stuff here to get a sense of the committee's comfort with this. I mean, I, for one, am very much a proponent of getting a pilot program moving forward this. Personally, been working on language in and around this for about 4 years now, so. I'm encouraged, I know the industry is encouraged to move forward with something. But how would we like to make this language more comfortable for the table broadly? Does the 5 and 5 sound like?
Compromise baby steps.
Okay. So favorable thumbs on 5 and 5.
Fine.
Okay. So you want to keep them at 10 with Coffin?
Don't want any.
So you're at 0.
Yeah, reps.
Ditto.
It's come up
Yeah.
either.
Don't want it.
Okay, so that's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And
It's
that's 6, 2.
three.
It's 3.
Lisa was a no when she left.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's right.
I guess we can do this
Yeah.
abstention.
Reps Billy wants to take that bill off the wall that it makes it not legal anymore.
Exactly. I don't mind saying it publicly.
Yes. Okay, so we're at
Exactly.
we're at 5 and 5.
Recall that damn law.
At 5 and 5.
Come back next year and you can write this bill.
I got a lot of it, so I know about it.
Oh.
Yeah, absolutely.
Recall.
Doesn't not make personal.
Sure.
So those things like I was saying are not wrong.
Oh, he and I were making eye contact. We're having.
I
a
know, but
moment.
it's just, it's still distracting.
What was the thumb count on that one?
So next move is to the retail.
That's.
So currently cultivators, right? Cultivators and where's the manufacturers? Make sure. Everybody, yep. And so I saw a hand from Rep. Coffin.
I was. Got thrown off on, what was the thumb count on that one?
6-3.
6,
Oh,
3.
6-3, okay.
No, 6-3, 6-3,
5
1.
and 5.
No, 6-3, 2.
2, yeah.
Yeah.
Now the retail conversation. Rep. Boyd.
I would just also mention that I don't know about this chart, it's very helpful. Retail would also fall in line with Maine and New York.
Oh, for like continuity within all the.
Yeah,
events program?
Not being able to do
events.
both. I mean,
No, for who can post it.
Yes, so that would,
Although in New York, it says that retail licensees in conjunction with a cultivator or manufacturer, so that would still provide a pathway.
but the retail would have to be in conjunction with.
Yeah, I think if I'm understanding this correctly, a cultivator could pair up with a retailer.
I got a hand in the gallery.
Thank you, Chair.
Just identify yourself for the record, please.
Hello, Vermont Forest Association. I appreciate this discussion on event permits. I do. I know it's a challenging subject matter, albeit we've been talking about it for many years. I would just though I would like to impart a couple items on you for this discussion, first of all. Just going back to my testimony from the other week. I want to remind this committee that this body, the State House, is well aware of the importance of allowing small producers to have direct market distribution in agricultural markets, whether it's beer or small farmers. We know that they cannot survive in a marketplace without some sort of well-regulated access to the general public. Consumers prefer relational purchases for these products. They want to get to know who's supplying them with their product. Cannabis is no different than food or beer. So something to keep in mind, the viability, the degree with which they're able to survive on the market is contingent upon whether or not they have direct access. This is an experiment to explore whether or not that's possible. I will say that the event permit, just like the delivery permit, which is the next section, are some of the most important and popular sections of this bill with the industry because of their direct sales.
No, thank you. So with that insight from the Growers Association, I do want to recognize that there is, and I knew that this piece of the conversation was going to be a little bit more granular and focused. So I'm just going to open it back up to the table right now about how they feel within this pilot program.
Oh, I thought we just voted it.
No, that's
That was
just
on
the
the
five.
phone.
Oh,
Just
just
the five.
okay,
Yeah,
good.
now we're on to whether or not it is all encompassing or retail focused with the ability to be the one providing and selling the product as proposed. I guess I could say as proposed by Rep. Boyden. Rep. Nugent?
I'm just wondering if there's a way to connect the different tiers or the growers and the retailers so that they're still connected to it, but the retailers are the ones doing the events, if that would be something that's possible. So that, because I think the concern around getting trained on server training and all the things that go with retail makes sense to me. But I also understand that they want to be part of that and connecting their consumers, so.
Well, I mean, I think that that's a relationship between the retail operator and the cultivators themselves, right? Like, I mean, to go into like a food sort of analogy, like when I would do various food festival type things, you would have a relationship with certain producers. And so as the licensed caterer or a restaurant, you would highlight their product, oftentimes with them standing next to you, but you're the vehicle for the consumption. I guess it's sort of just like one of my easy career overlays to what I think you're talking about. Yes, right.
So in regards to what the gentleman behind me said, that he's okay with what this says that's currently in the bill?
Yes, their position, I think I confidently say the position of the Growers Association is they support the language as it is.
I don't have a problem with the way it's read with the no commingling and. Now that we've changed the 5 to 5.
Okay, I mean, and this bill does have other stops on the train. We are amending it, it will have to go back to this.
Right.
So, the two pieces were we better understand the retail component now with the license. We're at 5 and 5. So we agreed on the 5 and 5. Do we want to move on with these sections just with that change on the 5 and 5 and leave the rest as is, or do we want to? I'm looking at the table here. Rep. Waters Evans, then Piston.
I'm fine leaving it with the way that it is. I mean, I do like Rep. Boyden's idea. I guess the thing that worries me is making sure that everyone is adhering to the same standards and that they're able to. But also, it's a pilot program. And if we're being optimistic, then we're gonna say it's probably gonna go well. And then this is going to become something that's just part of life, in which case then maybe we can open it up to other folks. The only part that worries me is, you know, I guess because we've talked to varying degrees about having direct to consumer sales from cultivators. And I don't know how this fits quite in with that. You know what I mean? It seems like it's making that like a muddy-ish kind of line. But I guess I could live it. I feel like if it's something that's going to be an absolute no for other people, I'd be amenable to changing it, but also I think it's okay to wait.
Again, pilot, I think is a very valid point. Yeah. So,
And just at any point, if it seems like if we keep the language as it was, like we change it to the 5 and the 5, we keep everything else the way it was. There's nothing that's preventing us from making changes to this program next year or the year after, you know, as we go along, right? Okay.
Any new bill would, right? Any new bill would.
but yeah, and I
Yeah.
mean, we do a cannabis bill every year. There's a vehicle for this conversation living in the general assembly
Please.
at every moment. Yep.
Yeah, okay. So that makes me feel better too. Like if things just seem like they're, I mean, I can't see how they would go off the rail, but if they were, then we can, you know, learn some lessons and change some things, but I guess that's why we have a pilot program, just to see how it goes.
Okay. So,
Question for
yep,
you.
oh, I'm sorry, Rep. Pisnell.
As I'm seeing anything, but why is it that they have to be kept separately and not together? Like, why, if you're gonna go to a festival, just think, if you're gonna go to a festival, you're gonna wanna consume alcohol, I'm assuming. And then I'm just understanding why it would just all be cannabis or all be a beer tent. I mean, like, why wouldn't you have it commingled?
Tucker, would you like to go or would?
Oh, no, he's much more of an authority on this.
This was just a policy decision that was made in the Senate, but there is some background to this, which largely relates to the type of training, education around service and sale that Representative Boyden was talking to, and the difficulty for the administrative agencies in assessing who has crossed a legal boundary by serving someone who's intoxicated when you have multiple different types of licensees serving different products at the same location for purposes of the same event. It is something that comes up a lot in the context of alcoholic beverage festivals broadly under the festival permit, when you have so many different licensees who are operating within the same space. Something that I wanted to touch on for Representative Boyden's questions about training, safety, and service. So first, built into the procedures that the CCB is granted authority to adopt here and the requirements for the permit are safety and health and safety requirements separated out, both for purposes of sales to individuals to ensure they're of age and the products aren't being diverted, but also for just health and safety generally in the transaction, but also for the potential of on-site consumption. And in the background of this, in 7 VSA section 865, there is a broad requirement that for any licensee, they have to ensure that any employee involved in the sale of cannabis or cannabis products to the public completes a CCB training program. So this something that likely acts not only in the background, but the CCB is granted express authority to require as part of their procedures for these permits.
Gallery.
Jeff Costello, Vermont Florist Association, just adding to Legislative Council remarks. Committee, what we hear broadly from licensees is they're looking for an opportunity to demonstrate their ability to be compliant in situations like that. So there is an eagerness, their livelihoods, the market is very challenging right now. They're looking for opportunities to demonstrate compliance. So it's something out there. Got a great group of licensees this one.
Okay. So committee, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we're leaning towards with this section, the 5 and the 5. But through all that discussion, essentially leaving the language as is otherwise. Right?
Yep.
Yes. Okay. Calling thumbs on 5 and 5 being the only notable amendment to these sections.
You can find it.
Okay, so that's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 3, 7, 1, 3.
Mhm.
Who said no?
Is it favorable thumbs for this section with the adjustment of 5 and 5?
No.
There's a no there.
I'm a no to the whole section.
That's fine, that's fine. You're right, it's 7-1.
And we use.
But Lisa would be in-
Oh, she's just absent now. Yeah, they're absent. So that's a
Yeah, that's 3.
Yeah. So
That's a
7-1-3.
7-1-3.
Yep.
All right. Moving on.
Section 6 is the delivery permit. Same term for the pilot. This, the licensees that are eligible here are tier 1 and tier 2 cultivators and tier 1 and tier 2 manufacturers. When we walked through this last time, I noted that it's the same criteria that are laid out for the retail delivery permits for alcoholic beverages. Same deal with procedures being adopted by the CCB. And again, this is a 2-year program subject to a prospective repeal.
Rep Morgan.
Both growers, my district and others that have emailed me from outside of my district. So far, I've not seen anything but an overwhelming no to this section. Yeah, feedback I have.
I've received much of the same discontent with this section from a landscape of folks. Any other thoughts or feedback on this? Rep Morgan, and then Coffin.
This doesn't affect the medical delivery in any way if we were to take this out, right?
No.
No, totally separate,
That is my understanding.
because that's something that already exists.
Yes, that lives in a different, am I correct, council? It's a different section? Yep.
Well, I don't love this. But as long as it doesn't affect the medical patients, I'm fine with getting rid of the delivery part. I concur with Rep Morgan.
And I know I feel very comfortable speaking on Madam Oyster's behalf that she had a strong opinion against this section as well. Rep Morgan.
I'll just read you the quote they sent that my 2 guys collaborated on. It said, "We're very concerned that delivery will create headaches for local law enforcement, drain CCB's limited resources. We're concerned rural Vermont wouldn't benefit because right now high fuel prices make delivery outside of a handful of Vermont's most popular areas not cost effective. It could also open the door for a company like Uber or DoorDash to monopolize cannabis industry. Let's get events right before we go ahead with delivery." I think that's a,
What was the last, get it right before?
let's get events right
Oh,
before we
events
go ahead with delivery. So I think that's a responsible thought process, I guess, is the way I think. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say I feel like trying to be responsible with that statement.
No. So with that, I think the general consensus within the committee right now is to just strike section 6. Okay, thumbs for a strike of section 6. There's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, there we go. Hey, we got to unanimous. That's a
7-0.
7-0-3.
Sections 7 and 8, as you may recall, related to updates to some of the tax payment statutes to include both of these permits. So with the removal of section 6, I'll update section 7 and 8 to remove the mention of the delivery permit. Understood?
Right, yep.
All right, moving all the way into section 10. CCB rules and report, rules related to what would now just be the event permit, as well as an interim report due to the General Assembly concerning the program. Section 10.
Could you repeat that we said? I'm sorry.
You were kind of interrupted.
Section 10 deals with the adoption proposal of rules governing the event permit.
Okay.
Now that you've removed the delivery, as well as an interim report to the General Assembly about whether the prospective repeal should be allowed to take place, whether there should be any updates to Title VII to reflect the event permit, things of that nature.
Is that good? Did anyone have questions about that part?
I think that's good.
It's good.
Okay. We love a check back.
I'm not even gonna oppose this because, well, if we're gonna even have one event, we should have some rules.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
I think if we are going to collect this information and have something to look back at, then it'll inform future decision-making. But if this done after it comes to a close. We need to do thumbs on this part. We're losing people. It's pretty soon. It's just gonna be like me sitting here alone giving a thumb up. Is everybody okay with section 10, 8 through 10, I think is what we were looking at? Yeah,
Not 10A, but
yeah,
10 prior,
that's right.
correct?
Yeah, yeah, just the part about the report.
Yep, section.
Okay,
Yep.
we're all good. So it's
Good.
7. Okay.
We're on page 11 now in section 10A under the reader assistance heading for the outdoor cultivator fees. And within this section, easiest way to describe what's happening, the fees are being reduced by half for outdoor cultivators.
Oh, yes.
Just,
Red mark.
no, I'm just gonna get again, a quote from my couple guys here, their words. Cuts outdoor cultivation fees in half, as Tucker said. This could be funded by possibly raising fees on larger indoor licenses. This is important because we want Vermont's cannabis market to benefit farmers in rural Vermont, deter large out-of-state actors from setting up huge indoor facilities and monopolizing the market.
Were they saying that they were concerned that it was going to, but they didn't want them?
That they didn't, what, I'm sorry.
Were your?
You want me to reread it?
Well, I just missed the part where they said that they were okay with it and that they suggested that we, at some point.
They felt that was the
We
decision.
raised-
It's important to keep as is, basically.
Oh, okay. Oh, I thought you were saying that they wanted, that you were saying you wanted to increase the fees for the.
No.
Okay,
They like that it's.
They like it the way it is. It's been proposed here.
okay, Repco.
yeah, no, I'm actually, and I'm in favor of this section because thinking about some of the testimony we had last year, talking about cannabis and the outdoor growers, because the season is limited, you're affected by the weather, all of that. They don't have the same advantage as people that can afford to build large indoor complexes. So I think this is appropriate to help our outdoor growers and to help. No, again, I'm not for to help promote at least our cultivators that are doing their craft growing, get specialized. Our smaller growers also, as well as some of the larger growers that are trying to use the land responsibly rather than put facilities up. So might as well.
I appreciate how open people are in this room to making decisions on things they don't really like on principle, but have to endure as a committee member. It's not an easy thing to do. I appreciate that everyone putting their personal feelings aside.
It's a balance.
It's not and it's not again about my feelings. It's,
Yeah.
like you said, it's about, this makes sense for the people that are struggling to get their outdoor cultivation and have limited timeframes. It allows them to.
Sorry, did you have a question or you just?
Yeah, it may be in here and I haven't seen it. What about security on properties where marijuana is being grown? Is there any provision for, or do we speak to security measures that a grower ought to install with fields of cultivated marijuana from intrusion.
Yes, I'm going to defer to Chair Pepper on that.
Yes, for the record, James Pepper, Chair of the Cannabis Control Board. That was an original authority, not specific, but it was specified that the cannabis board should establish security proposals, not just for the growers, but for every type license type, and they don't have to be the same. The concerns around outdoor cultivation are actually different than indoor cultivation, but it's different from retailers or wholesalers.
Yeah.
So we have very robust rules on that, and they're licensee specific, and we've actually adjusted the outdoor, because we started out pretty prescriptive. And then we realized that there were no incidents, none of the kind of worst fears that we thought about kids maybe hopping the fence and ripping plants out around harvest time. They never materialized. I think we've only had one police call the entire time that we've been around about a possible theft, and that was not even confirmed. So we've actually loosened them a little bit, especially for those like smallest growers. But it's all deferred to the board and we'll make.
I appreciate that. And I'll just share this with you. I appreciate what you've told me. And I believe the board is not going to do that. My concern is that there is a criminal element that will always be on the perimeter. For anybody that I have offended here with my bluster, please accept my apology. But my experience is deep and long. And so I have strong feelings about it. And what we have found is that when you introduce something as dramatic as this, you do have a tendency, and it will be a law enforcement challenge. And the law enforcement community will be very helpful to you as a board. But it may be a great challenge or a greater challenge than we anticipate. My thought, that's all. Yeah. I understand the fiber of our society. I care about it, particularly the medical application. But I do want to be able, if I can let off a little bit of steam, I won't get into a car accident on the way home.
Thanks. Rep. Coffin and then Rep. Morgan.
I do have some outdoor cultivators in my area. And I know they have to protect their investment. They have cameras, they have locks on everything. They secure their areas because they have to protect their investment with the limited growing seasons. But to that end, locks are to keep honest people honest. They're not to keep thieves out. It's as simple as that. If that were the case, we wouldn't have bank robbers. Yeah.
Thanks. Rep. Morgan.
Couple things. First of all, Chief, I don't think you should ever have to apologize for your diversity of thought
That's right.
on the board.
I appreciate
on our committee, because you are 1/11 of this board, and Michael Morgan's humble opinion, you are an equal player at the table. And I think you bring a very unique perspective that I'm sure even these folks that are in the world of that appreciate on, your perspective as well, because the minute we stymie that, I think that's bad. And that's my 2 cents on that. The other piece of this, on the flip side of it, I think anybody that has been in this committee for a bit knows, Chair Pepper knows, you wouldn't have seen me at a grower's establishment 4 years ago, would you? Yeah, and I've been there 3 times with you now, maybe. Yeah, so I'm looking also some of the pragmatic sides of some of this to a degree. So that's why I'm looking, even though maybe my guys would come back to me and go, well, we would like to see a little more, but they're going to go, hey, we appreciate your position and we respect it. So I think it's all about some mutual respect and some compromise in the whole thing. And, I hope everybody here appreciate and understand. This is not I get feedback from email, phone calls, face to faces with people on both sides of this issue, some in the middle. And I get the argument. People a lot of times will say, well, it's no worse than alcohol. Okay, it's no worse than tobacco. Okay. Sometimes my old counter to that was, well, do we need to worsen it? Do we need to add something else to the mix? And let's just make more problems for the populace, because I think we could all certainly agree that alcohol and tobacco have not done a lot of lives any favors. There's no question about that. And this, I think you could look at it in the same vein that improperly used in time. It's just got to be carefully considered. And I think everybody in this room, I think to a degree would agree with me. I know I'm not speaking for all, but you know what I mean? Everything's got its ups and downs, and I'm willing to have a conversation on it. But I also want nobody in this room to feel like their opinion doesn't matter. 100%.
No, thank you for that.
So don't apologize, chief. Please
That's right.
never apologize.
So
Thank you.
section 10A, thank you.
So that was my stump speech for the day.
It was important, thank you. You're all equal voice, it is true. All right. So does anyone have anything else to say about 10A, about the fees?
I think it's fine.
Reg Council, Tucker has something to say.
Two things, just to bookmark for you, that section 10A is subject to contingent effectiveness. So it will only become effective if the General Assembly appropriates $105,000 to the cannabis regulation fund. So unless that happens in an appropriation or transfer somewhere, this is not going to go into effect. So I wanted to flag that for purposes of your policy discussion. Also, the chair asked me to flag that from an administrative level, there's a request, I believe, from the CCB related to this section to delay the effective date to January 1st, 2027.
Instead of July.
Of course, would still be subject to the contingency, but
Right. Okay. Thank you. And, knowing that we are not going to know about that appropriation for some time, probably until after we're done working on this bill. So thank you, Tucker.
This is more for levity than anything. On the top of page 12, the tier 2 guys are getting a break. As my public math says that 9 1/4, if we're doing 50, they would be 937.50. Is that public math correct?
that probably is correct.
Somebody decided to give them a pass at 9 1/4.
$15.50.
They're getting a 12.50 break there, so
All right.
that's just a little fun.
That's important to point out. All right, thumbs for 10A.
Good.
All right.
All right, 10A thumbs. Thank you, committee. Let me go out and have a conversation with Senator Lyons. That was not about this. This is about our ophthalmologist bill, which is a different conversation for later, but that was
I'm curious on that.
You don't want to call me Philip?
what, you don't want to commingle your ophthalmologist, your ophthalmologist. Yeah. And it's good situational humor, remember?
Yeah,
Okay,
we're in section 11.
section 11.
He's got back right before the fun part.
Break it right away.
All right, team.
I agree with section 11 because they can't do anything unless the legislative body of their town allows. Correct?
Section 11, some regulation by local government changes, really just two major substantive changes. The first allows voters to petition for the opt-in vote at the local level. And the second, getting to this is a little complicated. I'm going to try to do steps as easily as possible. The issuance of a license is contingent on the simultaneous issuance of a local license for each of these establishments. The local license can have provisional requirements put in place by the local government, which can be based on bylaws or a specific subset of ordinances. And there are types of licensees that are exempt from nuisance ordinance requirements that can be placed on the issuance of the local license. What is added here are indoor cultivators and tier 1 manufacturers to the existing exception for outdoor cultivators. And something that I noted is that as this was being drafted in the chair on the last day before it was voted. I made an error. And there needs to be a conjunction between subdivisions B and C.
Well, it's open for comment. I mean, I, for one, find the language that's presented here to be logical and amenable, but I. Perhaps.
I just wanted to double check based on some questions after caucus this morning. This isn't giving municipalities. This isn't asking any. It's a couple of people had come up to me after we spoke and said they were concerned that this was just creating an opt-out situation for municipalities as far as like whether or not retailers or cultivators are allowed, and that is not what's happening, right?
No.
Okay.
In fact, rescission is already in the law and considered. You could have a townwide vote to rescind
Okay,
already, so.
okay. I just wanted to double check and make sure that was
That
clear
has
for everyone.
occurred, right? Like, didn't one or two towns already rescind?
I'm not familiar with that.
Okay, I feel like it's kind of the news, but hey, you know, yeah, there was at least one. Yeah,
I think they
I'm
have-
seeing it on Wilmington perhaps, if I recall. Okay, hands up. I had a cough and I had a piss on, and I got a water Evans. Sorry.
Oh, I just wanted to make sure that this still leaves it as a municipality has to opt in. As far as. They don't have. Okay. That's, was important, that's all.
Can you tell me where C is supposed to start? I see where B is, I see where D is. Where does C start?
Subsection C is not included in this because there are no changes happening there. What I called out was subdivision C, which is on line 7
Oh,
of page
okay.
14.
And any other commentary?
Yes, I had one more thing I wanted to ask. Okay, so when it says signs or public nuisances, can these be separate? Are these, or they, I guess it already exists for the outdoor cultivators. Can it be separate for a cannabis business than it would be for like a gravy stand?
You're talking about the ordinance
Yes.
governing public nuisances.
Yes.
Interesting question about whether you could have as a business entity, a corporation, equal protection claim under a municipal ordinance because your particular type of business is being targeted. Can tell you that some of the case law behind this would lean towards the requirement for the municipality to be that they adopt an ordinance governing the type of nuisance, not necessarily the type of business.
Okay.
So, you know, and also there's already a requirement based on how the 24 VSA section 2291 language has been interpreted by the Supreme Court of Vermont, that these be sufficiently public nuisances. So this is not just about a nuisance broadly. This is about a subset from the common law, put into 24 VSA 2291 of nuisances that affect the general public outside of the business's confines or the property owner's confines. That is what the ordinance is attempting to regulate. So my answer is sufficiently lawyerly in that I'm not certain because I don't know whether it's been tested and come before court. Typically alienating certain types of businesses simply because they are that type of business, at least under US Supreme Court jurisprudence, could violate the equal protection clause. And all of the history of 24 VSA 2291 up to this point indicates that the ordinance regulates the nuisance, not the type of landowner or business that creates the nuisance.
And are we counting the odor of cannabis as a nuisance?
All of the discussions in the General Assembly that I have heard around this are focused on noxious odors. And
Okay.
that is I would say also in my time here, the same for other, the same for agriculture and agricultural practices as well, which is why there are carve outs elsewhere in Title VI, for example, from local regulation of nuisances around noxious odors that agriculture, which is a totally separate discussion that has come up because of some recent Supreme Court decisions.
All right, and this might be a little much for right now, but I'm wondering if there is a nuisance ordinance about the odor of the cannabis, and we are also saying that you can't make a certain laws or rules within a municipality that would prevent a cannabis grower, a cultivator from operating altogether. How do those two things exist? Because it's nearly impossible to have outdoor growing of cannabis without having it smell like something.
So it's great that you've gone here because an important thing to note is that this is about the conditions that can be placed on the issuance of the license, not on regulation of the conduct generally. So
Okay,
essentially what this section does is it allows municipal governments in the issuance of the local license to require compliance with ordinances or bylaws before the license can be either issued or renewed on the annual basis. But it doesn't prevent a municipality from adopting an ordinance governing nuisances that might apply to some of these licensees and enforcing them along with, for example, a civil penalty up to $800 a day under 24 VSA 1971. And applying that to the business. This is strictly about the issuance of the Cannabis Control Board's license
okay,
to the business entity and the conditions that the local government can put on the issuance or renewal of that license.
okay. Thank you.
Rep does not.
I'm just curious as to how they would be able to determine the nuisance of the smell. It's not like a noise ordinance where you can have a decimal reading and say, oh, yes, it's too loud, it's breaking your eardrum, you know what I mean? But how nuisance smell to you might be different than a nuisance smell to me. So how can you determine what's a nuisance smell? I mean, that seems,
Midge subjective.
yeah, just a bit.
If we had 5 months, we could go back and take 1L torts class and cover the various standards that it can apply to conduct, reasonable person, ordinary person, prudent standards. I don't know if there's a smellometer that is used to determine the nuisance. And
Pretty simple.
also
Factory meter.
unfamiliar with the evidentiary standards that would be brought in front of Vermont courts for purposes of a nuisance ordinance.
Wow.
Cow manure. Some people really
Love it or
like
hate
the
it.
smell. Yeah.
I mean, that's always been the banter with
Yes.
cannabis. I'm like, you like the food? I like the weed.
I will say that Professor Mogill
Great.
at Penn State, who was my torts professor, used the term the sniff test all the time when he was talking about constitutional standards. So perhaps Vermont will adopt a sniff test here.
I have a hand up in the gallery from the CCB.
James Pepper, to the Cannabis Board. This section was kind of a last minute addition. This is one of the last sections he worked on in the Senate. And it just, when I was doing a review of this, it kind of dawned on me, this may be reopening an issue that was dealt with and then dealt with again and dealt with again over the years. The two typical nuisances that we see and have dealt with are around odor, of course, and lights. People wanting to shine lights for, various times during the day. And then if they're outdoors, maybe waking up their neighbors early in the morning or something like that. I know that this section calls out indoor cultivators for not being able to condition indoor cultivation. But really, there's no statutory definition of indoors. You're not forced to grow inside if you're an indoor cultivator. The difference between an indoor and an outdoor is, are you using lights? That's how we define it. So you could be growing outside in a glass greenhouse or just outside in general. And if you're using lights, you're an indoor cultivator. If you're not using lights, you're an outdoor cultivator.
Oh.
And so I know that there's been a lot of granting of right to farm exemptions to outdoor cultivators and then stripping some of those back, and there's been problems. I just want to flag this issue for the committee. Because when there is a nuisance complaint or a dispute among neighbors, we get dragged into it, the CCB, we have very little authority to do anything, really. You guys hear about it endlessly. Sometimes there's court cases. I don't want to call it any one specific thing in particular, but an outdoor cultivator that wants to grow in a certain way that, you know, may not be amenable to his neighbors because of odor, lights, or something else that's going on. Could just convert an outdoor license into an indoor license, and not be subject to any sort of nuisance or conditions on the license. And maybe I'm reading the language wrong, so I would defer to your general counsel or your legislative counsel on this. But it was just an issue that was flagged for us, and I feel like it's worth bringing up just because you may be back here again undoing this or further conditioning this section next year with something like that.
So you're saying, I am cultivating cannabis in my yard and it is annoying my neighbors.
To me.
It's annoying to Rep Pincinel, to whom I live next door. And, so just trying to kind of think through what you just said. So right now I am an outdoor cultivator, which means I do not have lights. But right now, as before these changes from the Senate, Rep Pincinel's mad at me, so then I just put lights on my cannabis plants and then I'm no longer an outdoor cultivator and then I don't have to follow the laws.
You wouldn't even have to put lights out if you didn't want to. You would just have to pay an extra, if you're a tier 1 cultivator, pay an extra $500 to get an indoor license. And then we don't demand that you use lights if you're an indoor cultivator.
I just have an indoor license.
You just have an indoor license and you're no longer subject to ordinance conditions from the local town. Nuisance conditions.
Wow.
Okay, so this is trying to remedy that.
This creates that problem.
This is-
So it creates the problem. Okay, all right. Do we want to create that problem?
No,
I don't like creating problems. I like to solve problems.
It's a hypothetical. I'm just saying.
Well, sure, but-
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying.
It seems nonsensical all of a sudden. And so why are we doing this?
Rep White?
Sorry.
Is it a realistic hypothetical?
So if you, I don't know.
What's the probability of just hypothetical?
I don't want to overcomplicate the hypothetical
Yeah.
or undermine it or overmine it. I don't want to mine anywhere near this. Recall that this is one of the pieces of authority that a municipal corporation would have as far as just the conditions go. Right? They have other authority, which is they broadly have the authority to enforce bylaw requirements on the condition of the local license here. And that could include zoning requirements for where, for example, lighting equipment could be used in this context. The other thing to note, which I, gave kudos for bringing this up to Rep. Waters Evans, is that this is about the issuance of the license and the conditions that can be placed on renewal. It is not about the regulatory authority of municipal governments outside of that. So you could still have, provided that it doesn't run up against other protections for agricultural practices, you could have requirements at the local level that could be enforced against some of these businesses and license types. Separate from the issuance of a license. That would be fines and penalties that are applied based on a municipal bylaw or ordinance.
I could be a real nuisance to my neighbor for her smell of her plants and just aggravate the crap out of her. And for $500, she can shut me up and I can't do anything more about it.
I mean, you could let your cat wander in my yard or something.
So you can ask-
Hypotheticals.
Yeah.
it's a fire.
Rep. Nugent.
I guess I've kind of, I think, lost track of where we're at with this discussion and the. Because ordinances are the big topic and there's a lot of reasons that we, regulate what people do and because it could spill over to other people's yard. And I believe there's some kind of understanding that you have a right to peaceful enjoyment of your property, if I'm getting the language. Something like that. So anyway, I'm just wondering, okay, so what is the decision before us? We could,
I mean, I guess ultimately. The,
Simplest way to boil the question down. Are you going to extend the same exception that is granted to outdoor cultivators? Let me read the appropriate terms here, that are regulated in the same manner as the required agricultural practices to indoor cultivators and tier 1 manufacturers. That exception is from nuisance ordinances being a condition on the issuance of those licenses.
we're looking at some of the language, the ABC. Please.
would it make sense to consider this in terms of where these licensees might exist and the types of ordinances that various municipalities would want to have available to them?
Certainly, some policy that you could add in.
I mean, it's like I mean, it's. God, I'm like stuck in the cliche of the unintended consequences conversation, right? Does this butt up against something that we've already spent time trying to reel in and have more control and oversight over?
Yes. That's okay.
Mhm. And so outdoor cultivators are already subject to setbacks. So. Yes,
Wait, it's setbacks so, but what if I got the other license and decided to become an indoor cultivator now? Would
that
I,
changes the setbacks.
would I not be subject to setbacks?
That would be a better question perhaps for council, but maybe the C building zoning
Setbacks was.
I mean, that would just be like a structural zoning, I guess.
Yeah.
Right?
I think so.
Is it true, or are ordinances in general a little more flexible than zoning, and or if it is up to an ordinance, then that would allow the municipality to make decisions based on what's in their community rather than the legislature saying you can only make this kind of decision.
I have to leave in 10 minutes, but I'll. Two totally separate types of municipal regulation, subject to different procedures, broadly separated out into land use regulation, which is what bylaws are. And I gave a much better historical description to Senate GovOps about this recently, but remember it because bylaw, BY, in Danish, the root word here means settlement or city. It's a law about developing basically how land is used in a municipal corporation. Ordinance, exercise of the police power, regulating conduct, potentially veering into criminal enforcement over conduct. Comes from the Danish word for word, meaning the word of God, ordinance. So you have regulating buildings and how they come into place within a municipality, bylaws, police powers regulating conduct over here in the ordinances. Two totally different chapters of Title 24 with separate procedural requirements. When you asked about the flexibility, it depends on the power that has been granted within both of those contexts, as you know, as a Dillon's rule state. Some of the authority that is granted is broad. Some of it is quite narrow and prescriptive. So you'd have to look at the specific circumstance. And when you start talking about particularly bylaws and the relationship with quasi-agricultural practices or agricultural practices broadly gets very complicated. And I'm happy to give you a ton of research materials from Legislative Council for backup. It's okay. I got a primer. At 12:30, I sat down for lunch with another attorney in the office and we talked about the Code of Canute, who was one of the Saxon kings in the UK. He was a Danish king after the Saxons conquered, and part of the Code of Canute was the development of the separation between bylaws and ordinances, which is why they are Danish words.
Danish king, that's like a bakery in the Lower East Side, right?
It's also where J.K. Rowling got the name of Harry Potter from, the Canute.
That's have some riveting conversation.
So we still have conversation with this bill tomorrow. I don't know, it's like this feels like it's a little sticky. We want to just kind of marinate on this overnight and readdress Rep. Pisnall.
Can we just finish this section 11? Do we all agree that way it is? And we can start on 12 tomorrow, or we want to go back to 11?
But what I was saying is like, we can leave it as it is right now and circle back tomorrow if anybody has.
Yeah, I'd like to think more about 11.
Okay, cool. So you got 11 on hold. All right,
Yeah.
moving on to 12. So I do, before council starts filling for the limited minutes, yes. This bill will be going to Ways and Means, and there's a lot of like fee structure language in here. So I want to be conscious and make the committee aware that they intend on doing a lot of work to these sections.
Are you saying we can skip talking about those right now because they're going to discuss them at length and it's a better ways to, or a better use of time?
You're being
Can
more
move on?
forthcoming than I was, but
Okay.
yes, that's essentially what I'm saying.
Okay.
So let's give it a peruse, but I think this is a conversation that is more, well, this is why Ways and Means is gonna take possession.
Okay.
On the fee schedules, and then so there's fee schedule.
A lot of removal of the phrase integrated license.
Yeah, we have council talk about that. I was
Yeah.
looking at the sections where the fees were cut in half for the outdoor.
We already
That's
did
actually,
that
oh, you did
before
that?
you,
Oh,
while you
before I
were
got
gone.
here? Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Never mind. Yes.
Section 12 changes the distribution schedule for the portion of the license fees that go to municipalities from quarterly to annual basis for distribution. Okay,
Everybody good with that? Yes,
Mhm.
all right, cool. It's 12.
there are two changes in section 13 within the cannabis establishment fee schedule. The first shifts employee cards from annual to biennial licensing and increases the fee accordingly from $50 to $100. The second is that you move on to page 16 and that subdivision 9 for some products. This opens up the possibility that the CCB could issue longer product registrations at prorated costs per year for low risk and shelf stable products.
It was also kind of, we had a very similar conversation around the language that we looked at, so they see this as being relatively uniform. Everybody cool with that? Yes. Rep. Boyden?
Well, I wrote down when Cannabis Control Board reviewed the bill with us, that they weren't quite supportive of the biennial licensing for employees because of their IT system and the cost.
So, Chair Pepper, was there a conversation at one point about like maybe delaying the implementation?
If possible, we requested that this just be delayed for a year to actually get under contract to do this work, so there's no expectation to do it immediately because we have to essentially try to do it by paper for a year until we actually get the IT work.
So the proposal is, I guess, all of them. That we do the delayed implementation with the same language structure.
Sure.
That's not favorable.
Leaving the wording the same, but changing the
So they can
implementation.
get the IT up and running, so they're not doing it. Yeah.
The next big chunk of sections, all the way through to page 22 of the bill, removes references to the integrated license. I had one flag here for you that your talented and hardworking legislative council attorney Sophie Zadatny pointed out, is that I can't count, and that the amendment in section 17 removing subdivision G needs a conforming amendment in subdivision B1 to state that there shall be 6 types of licenses available since you are removed.
Ah, okay. So we're going from 7 to 6.
I got back up.
It's turns
Page 18.
18,
Line
14.
14.
Right, that makes sense, right, committee? All right. Council, make it be so.
Will do so. Page 22, under the reader assistance heading CBDF grants for cultivators, manufacturers, and economic empowerment businesses, starting on line 6, section 23 amends that section of law 7 VSA section 987 to add tier 1 cultivators, tier 1 manufacturers, and businesses granted economic empowerment status to the list of entities that are eligible for low interest rate loans and grants from the fund.
Yeah,
Okay. Any questions, comment, or feedback on that?
What page is that?
This is
22.
Okay. Cool. Chair Pepper.
I know, Tucker's, it should be, get through this thing. This section had a companion section that included a general fund transfer to this fund, because I think the testimony you've heard from ACCB is this fund will have more money in it by, I don't know, sometime in the fall, maybe late summer. So adding more eligible recipients, I mean, I think it's good policy, but it's not, it's just gonna actually kind of dilute whatever little money is left over away from social equity applicants.
Uh-oh. So we got more people trying to come in.
deleted my thumb.
Yeah, that is deleted thumb. And so I guess the bigger question is, do we delete B as a result of the reality of money?
Lines 13, 14, in other words.
13, 14, yep. I got Boyden, then I got Waters Evans.
Yeah, unless there's a appropriation that we're gonna be moving. I think it makes sense to keep the.
Got Waters Evans.
I wish that we could do that for everyone, but I think we need to maintain our commitment to the social equity. Yeah.
The existing language.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
no, I agree. And again, there's stops on the train with this bill. If money frees up, this language like this could be. Sure.
Who's that?
Cynthia, not when.
It's 23.
Okay.
We're talking about.
So we're proposing of striking that section, that language. Yes,
Yes,
thumbs.
yeah.
Okay, that is a plurality of thumb. Council, I know you're on a tight lock.
Would you like me to dive into sections 24 through 26, which deal with updates to various tax and tax related sections?
I believe that should probably remain a Ways and Means conversation.
And I will move on to section 27 for you all. This is the creation of a new section 904C in Title VII for cannabis cultivator cooperative corporations.
Yes.
Same structure as in 11 BSA Chapter 7 for cooperative corporations, just allows cannabis cultivators to incorporate under that chapter.
I know we heard testimony on this, that it is a very welcome concept to be allowed for the industry. Yeah, I think it works for me. Any differing opinions? Nope. Favorable thumbs for co-ops? Yes. Okay.
Sections 27A and 27B, bill creates a commercial cannabis compact. And to give you a refresher on the general overview, this authorizes the governor contingent on certain changes at the federal level to enter into compacts with other regulated states for purposes of interstate transfer of cannabis.
And we heard, this is sort of preparing for the future, like enabling language, knowing that the restrictions on interstate commerce at the federal level are probably going to go away at some point. So I personally find it as proactive legislation.
Uh-huh.
So, are any discussion or negative, opposition? Find favorable? Right, plurality of thumbs. Thank you, council.
Section 28 is deleted. Section 29, there's a series of appeals. First, the integrated license section. Then section related to the interplay between the cannabis establishment chapter and hemp therapeutic use of cannabis. And then finally, the prospective repeal of those pilot program permits. And there will be a required update here with the removal of the delivery permit flagged for you in subsection D. That'll go away.
Gotcha. That all makes sense, committee?
Section 30, restrictions, prohibition of certain restrictions related to cannabis for rental agreements. So in this section, it prohibits rental agreements from containing provisions that prohibit a tenant from possessing cannabis or cannabis products within the rental premises or using those products within a dwelling unit. Keeps in place possibility of prohibiting lighted cannabis or cannabis products, and also has a carve out for those rental agreements that are governed by federal law that prohibits the possession or use of cannabis within a rental premises.
Thoughts? Objections?
I need to think on this one. This is not something.
And it's, yes. The landlord tenant provisions.
So it's saying, yeah, the landlord would not be able to stop you.
To be clear, the distinction that's made is the landlord would still have the discretion to prohibit lighted smoking cannabis. This would prohibit the practice of having a lease agreement that prohibits the possession or use of cannabis broadly. So for example,
But you could still stop from,
gummies or the edible products.
You could still say no, like open burn, like a cigarette or a
no
cigar.
smoking period in my
Correct.
establishment.
Yes. But to
That I
actually
agree.
like, not allow,
You can eat a gummy.
you can eat a gummy on your couch and watch Netflix. Rep coughing.
Just, because there's nothing, it says lighted, okay? Well, I've seen people use dabs, which aren't truly lighted. The torch is lit, but they never really light those, that they heat it up enough to get the smoke. How does that? And then you still have the smoke, you still have the scent from coming off of it,
The vaping,
or the
so
vaping.
as defined. Does vapes and
This discussion came up in the Senate. Lighted is the term that's borrowed from the tobacco products world, and specifically the terms that are used in Title 18 around the prohibition of consumption of lighted tobacco products in certain spaces and places. Not sure how this would be interpreted or enforced around things like dabs, except it sounds like there's still combustion happening.
that's kind of where I was going. It's still a heating element.
You may want to, if you have concerns about this, discuss with some of the folks at CCB who may have different terms for how those types of products are consumed. Maybe even something that's already contemplated in rule somewhere, but
I mean, the subcommittee, we do have time for this tomorrow morning to go over the changes and also other thoughts. So do you want to put a pin in this as other thoughts?
Yes, we need to let Tucker.
I'm so trying to get Tucker released right now.
Not only am I good, but you have one section left, which is just the effective dates, and I already.
Gotta go at 3.
I do have to go now, but yes, I think my time is done anyway, because you're at the end of the bill.
That was,
Much of your obligations.
Thank you.
that was a lot in one shot.
Yeah.
So, and finally, sir, we're there. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, job committee, we're gonna take this back up tomorrow with revisions and discussion with Zetni, and thank you all. So, Dick.